It has been over a month since the events in October 7th, the massacre that Hamas committed in the Israeli territory, killing about 1,200 people over there. And as you know, as of right now, on the Palestinian side, over 15,000 civilians have lost their lives. I think it's actually over 20,000 people as of right now, because there's a lot of people that are buried under the rubble and the destruction of the apartment complexes and the houses. And really, there has not been enough time for people to dig through the destruction and grab the bodies and bring them out. I think definitely on both sides, over 20,000 people have lost their lives so far. It breaks my heart, it saddens me to predict that probably by the time this war is over, because this is not going to end in a ceasefire or a truce or anything like that, I am pretty sure that the Israelis are not going to give up until Hamas is completely eliminated. And that means probably somewhere around 100,000 people are going to lose their lives by the time this war is over. If you have watched my previous videos, you have obviously seen the calamities that has befallen these so-called Muslim countries in the Middle East. And I'm not saying this out of hate, I'm saying this out of love. Because you look at Turkey, 70,000 people died over there in the earthquake. You look at Libya, and over 10,000 people died during the storm. You look at Morocco, over 2,000 people died over there. You look at the events in Syria, and over 500,000 people lost their lives. You look at the events in Yemen, over 500,000 people died during Saudi-Yemeni war that was happening over the past few years. Everywhere in this region that you put your hand on, there is wounds. Everywhere you touch, it's bleeding. These are wounds that have festered. These are wounds that have not healed. And unfortunately, no one is there to heal these wounds, to put Band-Aid on it and to give medication and just help them heal, unfortunately. But why did Hamas commit that massacre, and to what end? 15,000 people, innocent civilians, have lost their lives so far, and they have released about 100 people, let's say 200 prisoners that have been in prison. Obviously, a lot of these are basically women and children, to be honest, that are in Israeli prisons. For what? For 15,000 people died, for 200 people to be released out of the prison? Does it even make sense? In which logic, in which universe does it make sense to cause the massacre, to cause 15,000 people to die so that you can release 200 people? Does it even make sense? But let me tell you why I think Hamas did this. They were really hoping that Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon would come to their rescue, and that did not happen. Why? Because the Iranian government is the most treacherous government in the Middle East. These are people who are not supported by their own people, and they have been suppressing and killing their own people for the past several years. In fact, last year, they killed so many children, girls and boys in Iran. So they don't have any support from the public in Iran, and they don't have any courage to do anything anyway. They also were hoping that Saudi Arabia would come to their rescue. Saudi Arabia actually killed about 500,000 Yemenis in the past few years. Do you really think that they care about 10 to 20 to 100,000 people in Gaza? In fact, the Saudi government is the biggest enemy of Muslim Brotherhood. And what is Hamas? Hamas is Muslim Brotherhood. The same with the Egyptian government. Egyptian government is the biggest enemy of Muslim Brotherhood. Do you remember what Egyptian government, the current Egyptian dictator, did to Muslim Brotherhood a few years ago? They actually executed their first Muslim Brotherhood freely elected Egyptian president while on stand. They gassed him and murdered him in front of the world. That's how much Egyptians and the Saudis, both of them, hate Muslim Brotherhood, which is actually Hamas. Hamas is a Muslim Brotherhood. So nobody in the region, nobody in this region is as happy as Egypt and as Saudi Arabia for Hamas to be eliminated. Or perhaps they thought Turkey is going to come to their rescue. The reality of the matter is that the Turkish president talks big, but he's an empty jar. So what Hamas did was that they basically committed suicide. They just killed themselves in front of the world. They're outgunned, they're outnumbered, and nobody in the world is willing to support them. So what they did technically is considered suicide. And except for getting their people in Gaza killed, they really did not achieve anything either. Current Islamic countries like Iran, like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, all of them, these are the most treacherous, the most unreliable, the least democratic countries in the world. Each of them, the only thing these governments are good at is killing their own people, massacring their own people, suppressing their own people so that they can stay in the government. All of them are a bunch of corrupt dictators that never have enough. They suck the blood of their nations and oppress them day in and day out. The only country that is a little bit better is Turkey. Turkey is a little bit more democratic. But other than that, all of them are the most corrupt, the most treacherous governments you can find on earth. And that is because these are a people devoid of understanding. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَوْمٌ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. A people that do not think. In fact, what the Palestinians are going through right now, and I have several videos on that, I will put the links in the description, is exactly what the Israelites went through in Egypt during the time of Pharaoh. That story is in the Quran, is in the Torah, is in the Bible, and you can read it for yourself. And Prophet Moses, who is one of the most high-ranking, one of the most noble prophets, was actually once upon a time was a terrorist. He used to attack the Egyptians and kill them. He was a terrorist, and the Egyptians actually wanted to capture him and kill him because he was wanted.